I'm already on. Thank you. 5, 4, 14, 1, live. Hey, Retro Road Mappers, it's Mod Betty again on the Facebook Live for Retro Roadmap. Welcome. I am so excited to actually continue to be doing these things, and apologies, I'm setting some stuff up, but I just want to say, hey everybody, thank you so much for tuning in. I can't even remember how many I've done here. Well, actually, I'm thinking this might be my 6th or 7th, so who knows? Craig, good to see you, my friend. Thank you for tuning in. I hope the weather is nice where you are, because we have an unusually sunny day. I thought it was going to be all gray and cloudy, and we actually got some sunshine, so I'm so excited about the sunshine. It doesn't take much to make me happy, but you give me some sunshine and I'm halfway there. So as I mentioned in the last video, which seems like a million years ago, it was only last Thursday, but we had the weekend in between, and I don't know if some of you might follow me on my Just Drive Your Life project, and what I've decided to do with that one, just because we're talking about videos and things, is I decided, why the heck not, to do a video every day for one of those. So if you're on the mailing list for that, you know what I'm talking about. So I have been probably more dressed and showered and lipsticked than I usually am. So thank you everybody who tunes in, because you guys are the ones who make it worth it for me to get up and do these. And I cannot express my gratitude enough for the fact that you all show up for these, because I think it's kind of fun. I have to admit, I would talk if nobody was here, but I love it when people are showing up. Like, I'm so glad, Craig, that you say that it's sunny where you are too. That's awesome. Helen, nice to see you. Summers Point, New Jersey. And it's neat. You gave me a couple of suggestions for today's state. Our state today is Connecticut. And so I looked up your recommendations, and what great ones. They weren't on my radar. So that's one of the things I love. Jeffrey, nice to see you. Bettina, Maine. Cliff Hillis, wonder what state he's from. Donna, I saw you chime in too. So thanks everybody. I love the fact that even though I'm just right here, there are people from all over, all different states in the comments section. And I think all of you would have something in common because you like Retro Roadmap, and I know there's other things that you would like too. And you know what? I'm going to ask Retro Road Husband a favor, because I feel really goofy. This is the first time. So Retro Road Husband, could you come here please? This is the first time I've done one of these videos where I have not been wearing my earrings from Bettina Clark, who made the earrings that I've been wearing ever since. And I was hoping to get them, but I don't think he's hearing me. But anyhow, I have an awesome pair of earrings made out of upcycled guitar strings from Stringing Along With Me. I wear them all the time, and this is the first time I haven't worn them on this, so I promise to always wear them. So I was thinking maybe you could go onto my desk, and I have that little thing that says dolls on it, and I have some earrings that I want to wear because it's live and I can do those things. These were actually made by a nice little silversmith up the street here near Pottstown. But as you can tell, I like the singles. I like the dangly things. There he is. You're not wearing your mask. So anyhow, here are the ones that Bettina made me. And I do love them so much because they are light, and I don't want to sound like an infomercial. It's the God's honest truth. But I love these because they're so big and dangly, and yet they're not heavy because I have no earlobes. So I will quickly do a costume change because I should just be wearing these all the time, which I pretty much am. So welcome everybody. Dawn, I'm so sad to hear that it's clouding over. Tomorrow's supposed to be rainy, and I think the next day too. That's why as soon as we're done here, I'm going out and taking a long walk. Kim, nice to see you. I bet you have beautiful weather because you are in Florida. So how awesome is that? And then a quick little goofy thing, but yeah, this is what I keep my earrings in. If anybody knows the reference, feel free to put it in the comments. But anyhow, so back to the retro road mapping. So as I promised, today's state is Connecticut. Connecticut. Now, here's the funny thing. I often call this, and other people have somewhat disparaging things, Butch, I will not sing a duet with Cliff because you don't want to hear me sing. I don't want to hear me sing. But I will talk about Connecticut, and there is no song. If anybody knows a song that has Connecticut in it, is that one? Anyhow, I don't know a song with Connecticut in it. And you know, I often call it the rectangle that you have to drive through to get to other places, because I'm from Massachusetts and the rest of the country you pretty much have to go through Connecticut. But the neat thing is that I found so many cool places in Connecticut that even I was surprised. Like, sometimes we forget, we take things for granted, or things just fall off your mental radar. And I found so many cool things to share with you, retro roadmap wise, for the state of Connecticut. I love everybody checking in. Marianne, thank you so much for checking in. Butch, I'm glad that gave you a little giggle. Stowe, Pennsylvania. Tiffany, thank you. Joe Morales, Uberalis, nice to see you. Oh, yay. It's so nice to see everybody. I have to say, you guys, for tuning in, hopefully this is fun for you, and you're keeping me sane and articulate, and as I mentioned, like, clothed. And we'll see what my hair looks like next week, because it is turning into quite the bouffant. Thank you. Yes, I was thinking of Judy Garland. I was thinking of Bing Crosby. Kim, you rock. I'll have to listen to that afterwards. So here's the thing with some of these places in Connecticut, and I'm actually going to put this down just a little bit because my arm is starting to hurt. So a couple of things about Connecticut. So it's called the Nutmeg State. It's also, I think at some point it was the insurance capital of the world. And I don't know if that's something, voted most likely to be insurance capital. But you know what? If you've got a nickname, I think the Nutmeg State is cuter. But then the other interesting thing, and I'll start this off with, because it was a recommendation by Helen Diane, who chimed in today. And there were two instances when I was looking up stuff for Connecticut that I thought that places were related to something that they ended up not being related to. So this is what I mean. So Helen had mentioned a place called Gillette Castle State Park. So Gillette Castle, I initially thought Gillette, shaving, or I could shave my legs or whatever, and it's not. Gillette Castle State Park was actually in no relation to King Gillette, who's the person who invented basically the razor, the razor that we know of now, and Gillette razors, of course. But it was this actor, William Gillette, who built a castle for his home in the late 1800s, early 20th century. And the cool thing is about actor William Gillette is he portrayed Sherlock Holmes on the stage. And check it out. He's the one who kind of made it be so we always think of Sherlock Holmes with that hat, the deerstalker hat, that has like the two things, the deerstalker and like the swoopy pipe, the bubble pipe. So he's the one who started being Sherlock Holmes with that kind of, iconography, for lack of a real term. And he's the one who made it famous. And there's this awesome castle on these beautiful grounds that he used to live in, called the Gillette Castle State Park. So that is a really cool place to go visit in Connecticut. So that was a really interesting thing for me to learn too. So that's a thing to do. I usually start out with the food places, and then we spend all the time there, and we're going to spend a lot of time in the food places because also Connecticut has it's for a fairly rectangular state, it's got some interesting like culinary delights, for lack of a better term. But we'll get into that, and we'll get into some other things to do too. But the other really interesting thing for me, and this is going to be a bit more of my geeky collectorness, is I went to, as most of you know, retro roadmap places tend to fall into 4 categories, right? It's things to do, things to eat, places to stay, and what's the other one? Places to shop. Now, I feel bad. I don't have any place to shop in Connecticut that I had to mention, but if you have any, put them in the comments. But when I was talking about places to stay, now, Connecticut being such an old state, it doesn't have a lot of mid-century modern motels or hotels. There is this one interesting motel on the side of the road that I'll tell you about in a bit, but it has a lot of these kind of old New England inns, you know, and there was this one that I discovered called the Griswold Inn, and it has been around since 1776, so that is wicked old, as I like to say. So the Griswold Inn. So some of you, I'm sure, are thinking of Chevy Chase and the Holiday Road, you know, all those movies. Instead, I'm thinking of frying pans. So I don't know if this is just me, because I'm a geeky collector person that goes to Brimfield whenever she can, but there are these frying pans, these cast iron frying pans that are collectible, and the brand name is Griswold. So anytime you're thrifting, if you see cast iron frying pans, flip them upside down and see if it's a Griswold, because they're worth some money. But they are not related to, Griswold frying pans are not related to Griswold in Connecticut. It's actually in Erie, Pennsylvania. So here we go. Quickly, two things. Gillette Castle State Park in Connecticut has nothing to do with Gillette razors. And Griswold Inn has nothing to do with Griswold frying pans. I don't think it has anything to do with Chevy Chase and his faux family, but in any case, let's delve into my favorite thing to talk about when we're talking about places to go and things to do, retro roadmap-wise, is the food places. So the thing about Connecticut and the food is this is what really turned me around. Like as I mentioned, I'm from Massachusetts. I keep on just gesturing with my wrong hand. So I'm from Massachusetts, right? And anytime I'd want to go anywhere, I'd have to drive through Connecticut. And I'd try to get through it really quickly. But then I was missing some things. Oh, thank you, Sue. A lot of product in here. Tomorrow, it's going to be a mushroom. There are some great foods that you really kind of can't get anywhere else than Connecticut. I'm going to start with my favorite, and I don't really have a retro roadmap worthy place to recommend there, but you could probably get it anywhere. Lobster rolls. So I talked about this in my Massachusetts episode a couple of weeks ago, and the thing I love about Connecticut lobster rolls, not lobster rolls, is the fact that they are made with fresh lobster meat on a grilled New England style bun, which is the one that looks like the bread kind of folded over and nicely grilled on either side. But then instead of doing like a cold lobster salad, it's hot melted butter on top. So good, so good. I love to go to a place called Lenny and Joe's Fishtail. There are 3 locations. The one that we go to is in crippity crap. Where is it? Madison. Because there's another one like literally a few things down. Yes. So the way you will remember, this is how you'll remember the exit to take off of 95 to get to that Lenny and Joe's. If it goes to, I think it's Hamanenset State Park, and we always call it ham and egg set, ham and eggs. So that's how I remember that. So a hot lobster roll is a wonderful Connecticut culinary treat. The other one, Bettina, thank you so much for mentioning this. Frank Pepe's Pizza, or kind of more globally, or regionally, or wherever, New Haven style pizza. So New Haven has a really distinctive kind of pizza, and there's this one great little road that has like a pizza rivalry on it. So Frank Pepe's is one of the original classic joints that you go to there. People wait in line outside for it, even when there isn't a pandemic going on and you can crowd in. But the other place, and it's delicious, it's coal-fired, it's wicked hot. And there's another place on the same street, Wooster Street, Wooster, not Worcester, called Sally's. And they also call it a Beats. And it's pizza with an A at the front, so Sally's a Beats. So I would recommend, you could actually maybe do a taste test. Like one day go to Frank Pepe's, the other day go to Sally's. Sally's has been sold in the past couple of years, but I hear that it's still really good and really the same. If you go to Frank Pepe's, I would highly recommend, this is my favorite. You may go like, oh, my favorite. Check me out. It is fresh clams, fresh garlic, and bacon on a pizza. No, it may have a little bit of cheese. I don't even think it has cheese on it. No red sauce. Ooh, I don't like that with my seafood. But that is so good. That is such a good pizza. So if you go into Frank Pepe's and you want to get something you probably can't get anywhere else, get the white clam pizza, says Maud Betty. And yes, people should rave about the New Haven pizza there. So there's Sally's, there's a Beats, again, a pizza, a Beats. Sally's and Frank Pepe's on Worcester, and there's Modern a Beats, which is still in New Haven. And then here's another kind, real quick, here's another kind of really interesting Connecticut pizza that I've never had anywhere else. Colony Pizza. So Colony, they have, I think, franchised, or they've got a few locations now, but the original one is in Stamford. And that is kind of halfway between where my family is and where we are. So I tend to stop there. That's like our halfway point when the Retro Road kids would come visit and stay with us. And they would, we would need a place to meet up. So this pizza at Colony Pizza, old school place right off of 95. And it's got this thing, hot oil pizza. It's not only just the oil the temperature is hot, but it's oil that has peppers in it. And it makes for such a tangy, delicious pizza. And of course, Donna Fisher-Wilhelm, thank you. Yeah, Mystic Pizza, like the movie with all those famous people when they were wicked young. That's one you can try out too. And so the pizza in Connecticut is fairly unusual and interesting and noteworthy. So don't pass up an opportunity to eat that when you're on the road. The other thing is, somebody mentioned up thread, and I apologize. I think it was Sue. Yes, Super Duper Weenie. So I was going to talk, and I am going to talk about Super Duper Weenie for a couple reasons. To me, it almost falls into two camps because it goes from the hot dog places that are in Connecticut, Super Duper Weenies, sells hot dogs of all varieties. They split them and grill them, which is kind of unusual in my book. And there are a bunch of different places to get interesting old school weenies in Connecticut. Like, I feel like I'm on Traffic and Weather. There's another place. Where was it? We were talking about, Super Duper Weenies. And then like Blackie's Hot Dog Stand. Blackie's Hot Dog Stand has been around since 1928 and is famous for their hot pepper relish. But the other cool thing about Super Duper Weenies, right, is that it really kind of began, and I know I saw Larry Coltrera popping on here, and he's a wonderful diner resource. But John Bader is a diner painter. I've got his books right here. Oh, I wasn't planning on doing this, but this is his book, one of his books. And I probably can't find, but he did a painting of like what we would call now a food truck, a Super Duper Weenie food truck. And it's kind of been famous because he painted it. And then Super Duper Weenie owner Gary Zamola decided to kind of revive the truck, and now it's got he's got an actual bricks and mortar place, really cute, just again off of 95 in, I want to say Fairfield. Yep, it's in Fairfield. And hey, check this out. This is how long Maud Betty has been into the diners and stuff. I used to put it in there when I bought this book. Where is it? Yeah, I got this book in 1986. I bet some of you weren't even born then. I was only 2 when I bought it, so I just was kind of ahead of the curve. But anyway, yes, very realistic diner paintings. Let me see. Like this one. This is just a total random one that I'm pulling up. You can't even see it. But yeah, this is a John Bader painting. So look at this is how you spell his name. If you're ever interested in checking him out, he's really the person that turned me on to diners. So speaking of diners, there are so many neat diners in Connecticut that I really want to make sure I kind of mention a bunch of them. I won't get into too many details, but these ones are all retro roadmap worthy, as it were. So we're talking about Connecticut today because for those of you who just joined, I am doing a state and episode. We started up in Maine. We're going from east to west. So I just saw, did I just see? I feel like the girl on Romper Room. James and Carla, nice to see you. So the cool thing is next week, or not next week, on Thursday, I'm going to be doing the New York episode of places Maud Betty would recommend in New York. Now, New York is going to be so awesome. It's going to take a few episodes, but tune into that and maybe we can figure out some places to send people not only in New York City, but in the state. So here's a couple of my favorite diners in Connecticut. I always say in no random order, but it is random. Zips in Dayville, O'Rourke's in Middleton. That is a wonderful little diner. The Arrow, the Post Road Diner, another one that is conveniently off of 95. Skis, is Skis open, Sue? I'm not sure. I'll have to check on that. I always thought it was being renovated. I could be wrong. The Quaker Diner is a nice little old school kind of barrel roof thing. It's in West Hartford. Way up in the corner, where's my map here? Yeah, not to scale, and don't use this for getting directions, but way up here in this quiet corner of Connecticut is Collins's Diner up there, and I think that's the right yeah. And the interesting thing about Collins is that there were a couple of comic strips from Zippy the Pinhead that featured that diner. So that's a cool one too. And somebody mentioned up 3, it might have been Sue, so thank you very much, but the Olympia Diner has a great neon sign on the top of it, and that's kind of right up the middle of Connecticut. So those are all a number of really cool diners in Connecticut. Each one of them, as you know, I have a penchant for the authentic vintage diner. Really the kind where you just walk in and you feel like you're stepping back in time. And especially now, it is so important in my mind to go to these mom and pop places and these places that are not the chains. So the diners often fall into that category. Oh crap, I just lost oh, hold on. I just was getting so carried away talking with my hands that I got everybody's comments back. Oh, awesome. So I see some Bader fans here. Some diner fans. Awesome. And I did not know that Bill Griffith lives in Connecticut. See, I thought the only kind of famous roadsidey people that lived in Connecticut were Jane and Michael Stern. And now Michael Stern even lives in, I think, one of the Carolinas. I can't remember. So Connecticut, here's the funny thing. So Tony's asking if all of this stuff is on my website or in my books. So I have 5 books out right now, five, but they are all regional to where I am currently located, which is just outside of Philadelphia. I endeavor to have a book for each state, but I'm not there yet. But I figured in this time where we are all connected online, that I would share with you some of my faves in these live videos to get you excited to go back out on the road once we are able to do that. Now, I am going to experiment because now with the world up in the air, it's the time to experiment. So I'm thinking of maybe doing a downloadable, printable version of, some of these states that I'm talking about, kind of a really easy way. I'm trying to figure out the best way to get the info to everybody the quickest, because it does none of us any good if it's just stuck in me. Like, I tend to be the bottleneck when it comes to getting the info out. So I thought if I can share it with you, and then you can even watch this and take notes, but if I share this with you and then create a downloadable thing that you'd pay, I don't know, a few bucks for or whatever, so we can get it done, and then everybody knows about it and we don't have to wait for me to churn out a book and get it printed and all that type of thing. So I'm experimenting maybe with some downloads, or maybe doing one of my more, not formal, but more well thought out presentations that I present online. So we'll see. I'm working on it, and yeah, I'm trying to do the map thing. My website has the map thing. But that's what I'm about now, and I've now totally distracted myself. I know we were talking about food. Okay, yeah. So some of the stuff that I was talking about, so we've talked about lobster rolls, we've talked about New Haven style pizza, and then we've talked about all these wonderful diners that there are. So here's an interesting thing. I would love to sell an app, but they are cost prohibitive to get designed. But you know what? Who knows? Maybe someday. I'm not saying no to anything. But let's talk about hamburgers. Now, I am not Hamburger America, but I have the book and I follow George Motz himself. But here's the really interesting thing for me. Again, I thought Connecticut was just this boring kind of rectangular state, but Connecticut has a lot going on food-wise. As far as burgers go, so a couple of things. There's Lewis's Lunch. That's in, oh crap, is it in New Haven or Hartford? I'll have to look it up. Lewis's Lunch, a crazy old school place. And it is a place where they claim to have invented the hamburger. You go there, you have to, again, it's this really small place. You wait in line, and really old school, you go in and like, it's one of those things where it's like, don't do this and don't do that. Like, don't ask for ketchup. They don't even have ketchup. Don't even ask for it. They have weird, unusual sides you can get. I think we got like potato salad and maybe some beans. But Lewis's Lunch is a burger place that's notable there. And then the other thing, two other kind of cheeseburgery things in Connecticut. One is in kind of like the middle of the state. There's a place in Meriden called Ted's. Now, other places do this kind of steamed cheeseburger that Ted's does, but I love Ted's because they have, so what a steamed cheeseburger is, let me back up. So a steamed cheeseburger is awesome. Yes, Kim, thank you for putting Lewis's Lunch in there. I apologize for not having that up here. Oh, my hair's getting in the way. But the steamed cheeseburger is a really unique thing because it's a burger, and then there's this secret meld of cheeses that they put together that melts into kind of a nice goo, and it's made in these tiny little like metal tins, these tiny little, almost like a tiny little loaf tray that they put in this contraption, much like the burgers at Lewis's. They make their burgers in an unusual old school contraption. So there's a lot of like burger contraptions in Connecticut. And Ted's has these little like metal things, like if you had a, what was that, like Susie Homemaker oven, and you would put the cheese in it, and then the cheese melts in this thing, and then they kind of push the cheese out of the little metal tray onto the burger. And it is like the cheesiest, craziest. And so that is a steamed cheeseburger, which you really can't really get anywhere else in the country as far as I know. But Meriden, Connecticut, and Ted's is kind of the iconic place to go to. The other place that I am so excited to share with you guys, because it so much reminds me of the old school places I used to go to, like with my grandmother, or even after school with my friends when we'd be walking to my friend Kate's house. It kind of reminds me of like an old school Friendly's or Brigham's. There's a place called the Shady Glen. So the Shady Glen is so adorable. I think it won a James Beard Award. I'm not sure, but if it hasn't, it should. So they are famous food-wise for their Bernice burger. So the Bernice is, again, a wicked lot of cheese. It's like the burger's here, and then they literally put like 4 pieces of cheese. So the cheese only has, like the burger only has a quarter of it, and then they cook it, and then all the cheese kind of flares up around it, so you get this burger. It's almost like like a mid-century modern burger, because it's got a burger, and then it's got these wings of cheese that come out. It's called the Bernice burger. It is in, crap, I can't remember. I'll put it in the comments, I promise. I know it's like before you get to Hartford on the way down from Massachusetts. But here's the wonderful thing about the Shady Glen too. It's one of those places that you walk in and you do feel like you stepped back in time, because on one side they've got all these cute little booths, and on the other side they have this crazy long counter that kind of serpentines around so that the waitresses who were wearing waitress uniforms and the guys behind the counter have the little paper hats. And it's one of these things, it's not an act. It is the real thing. They're just doing what they've done for all sorts of things. You sit down and they put a little doily in front of you with their logo on it. And then they put like a little glass of water like they used to do back in the day. And then you look up on the wall for the menu, figure out what to order. And then they also have ice cream. So you can get your Bernice burger, but save room for ice cream, because the ice creams, you can get these tiny little, you can get big ones too, but like the little dishes, the little metal dishes of ice cream, like when you were a little kid and you would go to one of those places with your gram, and it's just adorable. Like you go in, you can buy half gallons at the counter. It's just a gem. Thank you, Cliff Hillis, for reminding me that that the Shady Glen is in Manchester, Connecticut. So Sue, yeah, so Manchester, Connecticut. Google, make sure when you're going through. I think that's, yeah, it's kind of like right up there a little bit. So that is another famous burger place. Yeah, so we have gotten ourselves really hungry and really full as far as things to eat in Connecticut. So let's talk about a few fun things to do in Connecticut. Now, Sue, I know you have varying opinions on this, but I still want to share people to check out the New England Carousel Museum, because I love carousels, and they have a collection of carousel horses and things like that you're able to check out, which is wonderful. Speaking of carousels and old school amusement parks, now I did research, and this place does not appear to have a classic carousel. It has a roundhouse, but there's this adorable little amusement park called Quasi Amusement Park. It's on Lake Quassapog, and it is so cute because it's got all those classic rides that you may remember from being a kid. It's got like the Tilt-A-Whirl. It's got the Tilt-A-Whirl. It's got like the Paratrooper. It's got a little roller coaster. So they're not just kiddie rides, but those old school rides. And the really neat thing about Quasi Amusement Park is that it's on a lake, and you can get little paddle boats and go out on the lake and just, you do the thing. This is your feet, right? This is your feet on the paddle boat. So you can go trucking around the lake, just trucking around. And we did this once. We were coming home from Massachusetts, and we decided we didn't want to get home because nobody ever wants to come home. You just want to stay on the road. And it was just the most adorable little place. So that's Quasi Amusement Park. Please check that out. You can have little kids with you, or you don't even need to have little kids. But it's a really cute kind of family-run place to go to. Another place that Helen, I'm not sure if you're still logged on, but I wanted to give you props because when I mentioned last week that I was going to do Connecticut, you mentioned a few places, and you wanted to make sure that I mentioned the Shoreline Trolley Museum in East Haven, and that place looks so adorable. According to their website, it's the oldest continually running suburban trolley line in the USA, which sounds fascinating to me. And it has all sorts of old trolley cars and different modes of transportation. So that is kind of a museum to check out, but also wonderful. The other fun thing to do in Connecticut, and if you happen to be in East Haven, is to do some duck pin bowling. So you might have mentioned, I mentioned it last week, and I'm going to do this thing again. I should have just kept it on my desk. Hold on, I'll be right back. So bowling, everybody's going to be an expert at bowling by the time you watch me. So in New England, we typically have candle pin, shaped kind of like a candle. We don't have the big ball bowling except occasionally. But then there's also something called duck pin. Now, I do have a duck pin, but please note, see this little thing around its midriff? This is a rubber band. So this is a rubber band duck pin. But imagine this thing if it didn't have this. So duck pins has really small pins. Like it's not as big as the big, I always call it big ball bowling. What do you call that one? I call it big ball. Or Flintstone bowling. But duck pin has these small little pins, really small base too, and tiny little duck pin bowling balls. almost the size of the ones for duck pin. But there's a number of places you can actually go to in Connecticut to do duck pin bowling. And duck pin is kind of this like hidden sport. Some states have it, but many don't. So when you see that, it's a really cool thing to do. And there's a place in East Hampton. Where am I? No, excuse me, East Hampton. Where the heck did that come from? East Haven. Woodlawn Bowling in East Haven is a great place to go to. There's also a place called Johnson's in Hamden, and then in Danbury, duck pin bowling. So duck pin bowling is definitely a thing you can do in Connecticut. While I think of Danbury, because my brain tends to work like geographically, I am reminded of the fact that when we were talking about food, I don't know, you might be able to BYOB, Sue. That might improve my game, I'm not sure. But there's one place I was remiss in mentioning that I wanted to make sure I mentioned for Connecticut and eating, which was the Sycamore Drive-In, because they've been around for 70 years. It is in... Oh, I didn't write it down. Oh, no, we did. It's in Bethel, Connecticut, and allegedly they have the best burger in Connecticut. So it's another burger thing for Connecticut. So you might want to do a burger weekend, or a few long weekend and try all the burgers. Try all the burgers. But that's up near where Danbury Duck Pin is, in that general area of the state, as I said, kind of right up here. Another cool thing to do in, as I mentioned, the Gillette Castle State Park and the trolleys, thanks to Helen, is a really neat place just north of Hartford, the Vintage Radio and Communications Museum of Connecticut. Now, this place is on the RetroRoadMap.com website, and it is such a neat place that you follow the history of the radio, and that may sound like it isn't interesting, but it was so interesting to go there. See all these makes and models? I'd never heard about this. They have a refrigerator that also had a radio in it. I think it was a Philco, something, not a Norelco, Philco or something, but really check it out. It was a really interesting place. That's the Vintage Radio and Communications Museum of Connecticut. So that's a fun place to check out too. Sue, you wisely mentioned, this is true, that drive-ins will be open before movie theaters, and I agree with you too. We were talking about this actually probably on like one of the first videos I did, how it was like, how do you think this is going to affect drive-ins? And I thought, well, in a way, when we're all in our car, and this kind of goes on to my whole just drive your life, how technically your life is kind of like you in your car. We are all roughly 6 feet-ish away. So if you ever want to go to the drive-in movie theater in Connecticut, there are 3 of them. Where's my hand? That's 3. There's 3. There's one in Southington. I may be mispronouncing that, knowing there's regionalisms. Pleasant Valley Sunday, like the Monkees. And Mansfield, like Jane Mansfield. So that's how you can remember 2 of those. So those drive-in movie theaters are closed at the moment for the season, but please, for the love of God, I hope they open up for things so we can all get out and be a little bit more social, not just here on the internets. But I love this. I love how everybody's chiming in and people are talking to each other. This is so great because, I am doing a lot of the verbal talking, but seeing the interaction between people in the comment section is the thing that gets me so excited about it, because you know what? Then you get to see people's names, and you may see somebody recommend something that you don't know, and then it brings us all a little bit closer together. Let me see what else I have. I just want to make sure. There are some things I apologize. Oh, Jeannie, nice to see you. Kathy and Rich, nice to see you too. Again, I feel a bit like, yes, Joe Morales. I did mention Zips. Zips is a classic, and it's got that great eat sign on the top of it. So Zips in Dayville, that is a wonderful diner for eating and for photographing. So if you're an Instagrammer, check that one out. I realize I'm running a few minutes over, and I don't really, it's not like there's another show on after me, so this is okay, but I want to be mindful of everybody's time here. Mary Ann, what a great idea for drive-ins having an Easter service. That's so cool. I love that. See, you know what? Again, I'm going to go a little bit riffing here, but the creativity that is happening right now because of this pandemic is so like heart-filling, because it shows how human beings can respond positively to crazy stuff that's going on here. So the fact that you could go to church at the drive-in movie theater for Easter, that's awesome. I love that kind of stuff. So let's keep it up, people. I know, Sue, you were making masks and stuff, and our neighbor across the street made Cliff and me some masks. So when we go walking after this, we're going to have stylish masks to wear because we want to do our part to keep people safe. Let me see if anything else. I guess since I'm here, yep, Shankweilers, yep, thank you, Donna, for I love this. I love the collaboration. You know, I'm the point person here only because I put my big face in front of the camera, but this is really about connecting everybody, not just me. I love it when I have a party and I see people interacting and mingling. This is interacting and mingling. And I can just kind of bow out and just see everybody having fun. That's my favorite thing about being a hostess. If anybody has any questions for Maud Betty, I'm more than happy to answer some questions. If you haven't, put them in the comments, because there's the one last place I will tell you about actually there are two in Connecticut, and I've not been to either of them, but I want to talk about two things. So as I mentioned, the four food groups, as it were, for Retro Roadmap are things to do, places to eat, places to shop, and places to stay. And there aren't a lot of mid-century type places to stay in Connecticut, but there's this one fascinating place, and it's called the Hi-Ho Motel. And I call this fascinating. Thank you, Paul. I call this place fascinating because for years we would drive past it and I would be enthralled by the neon sign. And yet it was kind of a skeptical, maybe a no-tell, motel, maybe a dodgy little place. And then I heard that they opened up a Spanish tapas bar there. And so I'm thinking, a tapas bar in a motel? I'm learning Spanish on an app now, and I wish I could say, I'm like, hola. Anyhow, that intrigued me too. And then in researching it, it looks like somebody within the past 5 years also bought the motel and has kind of boutiqued it up. Boutique motel is now kind of like the phrase you would Google if you wanted to find some interesting motels. And so that's the Hi-Ho. It's in Fairfield. I have not been there, but I think because we had hoped to actually go to Barcelona, real Barcelona this year, and I don't think we're going to leave the contiguous 48, frankly. That's just us. But I could pretend to go to Barcelona and go to the Barcelona Tapas Bar at the Hi-Ho Motel in Connecticut. Why not? You know, when life gives you a pandemic, you make tapas in Connecticut at a motel. Whatever. So that is kind of an interesting place that I haven't been. If people have been there, put your comments in there. Oh crap, I just lost the comments. But in any case, there's that. The other place I want to tell you, and this is a bit more mid-mod map, which is, Maud Betty's kind of mid-century modern map that I'm putting together. I actually have the whole map on Google, and I am sharing places on the mid-mod map website. No, excuse me, not website. I made a Facebook page for it. But the Philip Johnson Glass House in New Canaan is internationally known. It's not known to rock the microphone though. But that is an icon of mid-century modern design, architecture, both residential and also the landscape around it. It's an arts installation. It's a wonderful place. Jeff Cooper, nice to see you. Jeff Cooper, everybody, somebody from the UK, woo! Nice to see you, Jeff. I hope we get to see you in real life soon. It's so great to have seen you when we did, so let's all be appreciative of that stuff. But, so yeah, the Glass House in New Canaan is definitely on, when Maud Betty does this glorious coffee table book of all sorts of mid-century modern places that you can visit, and you can, again, you can tour them or you can stay in them and stuff like that. That's totally on that. That would be high on there. So Yeah, so that's what I have for Connecticut. So if anybody else has any comments or, excuse me, recommendations for the state of Connecticut, I will work on my skills here right now. Feel free to put them in the comments. Oh, you know what? I thought I made this backwards. The whole time? Has that been that way? You know what? I'm just a human trying to figure it out. But next time, I thought I flipped it. Whatever. Whatever. So, this has been Maud Betty. I am coming to you every week on Tuesday and Thursday at 3 o'clock in the afternoon until, it tends to be about like 3:45. Don't know why. And to keep you entertained and distracted about the current situation, but also motivated I'm losing it. Oh, you know, I think I had it upside down. I am losing it. Thank you, Kim. Yeah. Oh, look, it looks so much better. Whew. Okay. Oh my gosh. But this, honestly, you guys, this is what I'm going to do. If I have to be here, if we go through all 50 states, I'm cool with that. Then we'll start countries, or then we'll start the other direction, you know, because I think it's really important for us all to be connected at this time, to remember that while things are scary and concerning out there, that not all hope is lost, and you need to just keep hope for the future. And here's my thing. It's like, if I can fill your tank with all these great ideas of places to go to, like, you're going to be like revving and revving, and as soon as you get out of park and into drive, you're going to slam on the gas and you're going to be going to all these places because it's so exciting about them. And then they stay open. You know, we end up having places that maybe have been unloved get a little bit more love. This is just my way of making sure that everybody knows that you know, we're all in this together, that it's so great to see you all. As I said at the top of the show, you guys showing up here makes me show up, because it gets me putting stuff in my hair, getting into clothes versus just my scrubby bubs, you know, when I'm working around the house. And so I thank you sincerely for showing up every time I show up. So I will be here on Thursday, 3 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. We will be talking about New York. Now, here's the deal with New York. I have to clue you in. I always have divided up New York into three different places. So there's New York City, there's New York State, and then I consider Long Island its own thing. So I haven't quite figured out which one I'm gonna feature next, because each one of them has so many things to recommend. But please do tune in, and yeah, again, we're all in this together. Let's just get through it. Wear your mask, be safe, be nice to people, and just drive your life, okay? Retro Road Mappers, I'll see you on Thursday, and be good until then. Be the best version of yourself, okay? Bye.